50, and I even think we're going to have a UFC fight. Does anybody watch UFC, the great Dana Well? Think of this on the grounds of the White House.
You heard that right. That was the President of the United States proposing to turn the White House lawn, a space usually reserved for diplomatic arrivals and the annual Easter egg roll, into a venue for a cage fight. It sounds like a line ripped from a political satire, but it's a very real proposal for America's 250th birthday. While the immediate reaction might be to laugh it off, the White House press secretary confirmed he is dead serious about the idea. A UFC spokesperson even told CBS News that discussions were happening. This isn't just about a fight, though. It's about the collision of raw spectacle and the highest office in the land. And it brings up some massive questions. Is an event like this, with 25,000 spectators on one of the most secure sites on Earth, even possible? And more importantly, what does this idea tell us about where American politics is headed? So what exactly is the plan here? Because the context is almost as wild as the idea itself. This isn't just some random Tuesday night fight. President Trump wants to tie this event to America's 250th anniversary, the semiquincentennial, which will be celebrated on July 4, 2026. This is a huge nationwide commemoration that's been years in the making, all to honor the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The existing plans for AmeriCat 150, overseen by a special commission and a White House task force, already involve a year of festivities. Special events at national parks, historical pageants, and a massive celebration on the National Mall. And now, if the president gets his way, those festivities will include a professional, full championship UFC fight card, organized by his longtime friend and UFC CEO Dana White. Trump dropped this bombshell during a speech at the Iowa State Fairgrounds, painting a picture of a massive outdoor event. "We have a lot of land there," he said, envisioning an audience of 20,000 to 25,000 people gathering on the South Lawn. While the rally crowd laughed, the administration has since doubled down, framing it as a serious part of the official celebrations. The UFC itself has been playing it cool. A spokesperson confirmed talks with the White House, but there's been no formal announcement from the promotion. Dana White simply reposted the clip of Trump's speech on social media, a move most people took as a quiet confirmation. This leaves the whole idea in a strange limbo. It's a presidential declaration blasted from the world's biggest microphone, but the practical details are still completely up in the air. Okay, so you've announced a cage fight on one of the most secure and historically significant patches of grass in the world. How exactly do you pull that off? The short answer is, with staggering, almost impossible difficulty. First, let's talk about the venue. The White House grounds aren't a commercial venue, they're a national park, officially called President's Park and managed by the National Park Service. You can't just call them up and book the South Lawn. Any event there with 25 or more people requires a public gathering permit. That process involves a ton of logistical meetings. And for special events, organizers have to post a bond to cover potential damages and get liability insurance. You also have to pay the U.S. Park Police back for security costs. Now picture what a UFC event requires. You need the octagon, massive lighting rigs, broadcast towers, giant screens, and seating for 25,000 people. All of that heavy equipment would have to be trucked onto a perfectly manicured historic lawn, a process that would likely face huge pushback from preservationists. Then there's the biggest hurdle of all, security. The White House is one of the most heavily fortified locations on the planet. An event like this would demand an unprecedented level of coordination between the Secret Service, the White House Military Office, and a dozen other agencies. Vetting and screening tens of thousands of fans, staff, and media would be a monumental task. Think about the security line for a normal arena show, and then multiply the complexity by 1,000. Every single person, vehicle, and piece of equipment would need to be searched and cleared. The security perimeter would be so enormous, it would likely shut down a huge chunk of Washington, D.C. The White House has hosted large events before, but things like the Easter egg roll are meticulously controlled. A professional combat sports event is a completely different beast. As of now, no permits have been filed, and no official plans have been submitted to the National Park Service. The gap between the big announcement and the reality of making it happen remains a vast, bureaucratic chasm. If this event is such a logistical nightmare, why even propose it? The answer has very little to do with celebrating American history, and everything to do with the powerful blend of politics, spectacle, and branding that has defined Donald Trump's career. At its core, this is about reinforcing the Trump brand. He has always understood the power of spectacle, from his real estate days to reality TV, and finally to the presidency. Staging a UFC fight at the White House is the ultimate expression of this. It shatters presidential norms and replaces them with the logic of pay-per-view entertainment. It's loud, aggressive, and guaranteed to dominate the news. The choice of the UFC is no accident. Trump's relationship with Dana White is a story of loyalty that goes back decades. In the early 2010s, when MMA was being attacked by politicians and couldn't get a venue, Trump gave the struggling UFC a home at his Taj Mahal casino. It was a lifeline. As Dana White has said, nobody took us seriously except for Donald Trump. That loyalty has been repaid over and over. White has been one of Trump's most vocal supporters, speaking at Republican national conventions and calling him a fighter. Their friendship is a public alliance that helps both of them. For Trump, it's a direct line to the UFC's massive and often apolitical fan base. For White, it gives his organization a level of political validation he could only dream of. This is also a brilliant political play. It's a direct appeal to a key demographic: younger men who connect with the UFC's ethos of strength and individualism. It's a culture war statement, positioning Trump as the champion of a tough, American badass masculinity against a perceived liberal elite. By bringing a cage fight to the White House, he's not just hosting an event, he's making a powerful statement about what he thinks America's culture should be. So what if it actually happens? What would it mean to see a UFC championship fight on the South Lawn as the grand finale for America's 250th birthday? Symbolically, it's incredibly potent. A national birthday is usually a moment for a country to reflect on its founding ideals: liberty, democracy, civic virtue. We mark it with fireworks, speeches, and calls for unity. Replacing that with a combat sports spectacle sends a clear message that the nation's primary values are now strength, competition, and dominance. It reframes our national story from one of political philosophy to one of physical confrontation. And who would even be in the cage? As it happens, the UFC has a perfect headliner for a patriotic event: Kayla Harrison, the new bantamweight champion. Harrison, a two-time Olympic gold medalist, recently won her title and had a viral cage-side celebration with Trump, even putting her new belt on his shoulder. The dream matchup being floated online is a super fight between Harrison and a legend like Amanda Nunes. A fight of that magnitude, showcasing a proud American champion on that stage, would be an incredible piece of political theater. The MMA community's reaction has been a mix of excitement, disbelief, and cynical acceptance. Online forums are buzzing with memes and jokes. It's a community that gets showmanship and has watched the lines between sports and politics blur for years. For many fans, a UFC fight at the White House isn't some shocking development. It feels like the logical conclusion of a trend that started long ago. Breaking down these intersections of politics, culture, and spectacle is what we do here. If you appreciate this kind of analysis and want more deep dives that go beyond the headlines, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Ultimately, whether a steel cage ever actually gets built on the White House lawn might be the least interesting part of this story. The permits might never get approved, the logistics could prove to be too much, and the whole thing could fade away as just another applause line from a rally. But the proposal itself is what's really significant. It's a powerful litmus test. The very idea forces a national conversation about what the presidency is, what our democratic symbols mean, and where the line is between governing and entertainment. For his supporters, it's an exciting, norm-shattering idea from a leader they see as being in touch with popular culture. For his critics, it represents the ultimate trashing of a sacred public office. The fight might never happen. But the fact that it was proposed, and that a huge part of the country is thrilled by the idea, tells you everything you need to know about the current state of American civic life. The real question isn't whether an octagon will be built on the lawn in 2026. The real question is whether the traditional walls of politics have already been torn down, leaving all of us, in one way or another, standing in the middle of the arena.
We're going to have a UFC fight. We're going to have a UFC fight. We have a lot of land there. We're going to build a little. We're not. Dana's going to do it. Dana's great, one of a kind. We're going to have a UFC fight.